Hello everyone and welcome to Campus Channel. I'm here with emlyon Business School and we're going to be talking about the international MBA, Become the Global Leader You Want to Be. In order to talk about this MBA, I have the pleasure to welcome the Program Director, Professor Rhoda Davidson. Hello Rhoda, how are you?
Hello, the pleasure's all ours. Thank you.
Well, thanks to you. And I also have the pleasure to welcome a current student in this program. He's called Jacob Westrom. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. You're both here to answer my questions, but first we're going to start with the pitch. So the pitch is a 60-second talk in which you're going to have to tell us, Rhoda, everything that we need to know about your MBA. Are you ready, Rhoda?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Then it's your turn.
The emlyon International MBA is a very exciting and dynamic program which offers talented managers an opportunity to gain leadership positions in Europe and to boost their career prospects. Our program allows you to experience and thrive in a truly international learning environment with people from over 30 countries. It provides a training ground for you to become one of tomorrow's leaders with skills to lead across culture and diversity. We strongly emphasize learning by doing on real company challenges. Digital transformation and sustainability are strong threads throughout all our courses. Cohort sizes for the classes are small, with inspirational international faculty. We're a very friendly and welcoming school, and we believe that social and networking aspects of an MBA are critically important. We're located in the beautiful and safe city of Lyon, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the fourth largest regional economy in all of Europe. It's also a centre of gastronomy and fine food.
All right, well, fine food, that's for sure in Lyon. Well, we're going to talk about the admission first before welcoming the fine food. What do you call a high potential candidate, Rhoda?
Yeah, a high potential candidate for us is somebody who has an absolute minimum of 3 years work experience. However, most of our MBAs have about 6 or 7 years work experience. And we're looking for people with leadership potential. We're looking for people who have an aspiration to take their leadership skills to a new level. We're looking for people who have some direction, who know kind of where they want to go more or less in their career. They understand that getting to the next step really requires them to learn how to work across boundaries and to work with people from other nationalities. We're looking for people who are ambitious. We're looking for people who care about the planet, care about the world, and we're looking for people who have a bright, sparky personality, and we feel that they have the ability to learn in our program.
Well, I guess, Jacob, you had all of those qualities that were mentioned by your professor. Maybe you could tell us about your academic background, your work experience background, and what did lead you to apply to this MBA?
Yeah, so my background, I actually had a bachelor's in biblical exposition and theology, which sounds kind of out of left, maybe, if you will. But I was fortunate to have a lot of upside within Wells Fargo, as well as Verizon Business, and served there as an account manager, account executive, and then account manager, and then a senior manager for business. So I was very fortunate to be looked at by emlyon, and I guess I would say why emlyon. Emlyon is, I've looked at and considered a lot of other programs in the United States, for example, as well as worldwide. And emlyon offers something I think that's very different in terms of being super application based and more real world centric in terms of how you approach the business holistically, not only from a corporate social responsibility perspective, but really taking the tools they give you and immediately having to apply them once you've mastered them.
All right, perfectly clear. Rhoda, I was wondering, for example, Jacob had a lot of work experience, and why would someone with more than 3 years of professional work experience want to go back to school? Is it not better to learn on the field, Rhoda?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and of course, I think on the job work experience is extremely important, but for the type of people that we're looking for people who want to be promoted pretty rapidly. We're looking for people who want to grow their career potential. And it's difficult to get all of that experience through work experience. I think there are probably three different ways in which doing an MBA enhances your ability to get promoted or to find this new job. And I think the first one is most people whose work experience is normally in one function, whereas with an MBA, you have the chance to dive into all the different functions in an organization. And even if you're not going to, obviously, over a year, you're not going to develop the skill to necessarily work exclusively in that function, but you are going to develop the vocabulary to be able to work with people from that function, which I think brings me on to the second point, which is that an MBA enables people to develop a very holistic view of business. So to be able to connect across functions, to be able to see the bigger picture, perhaps to be able to understand the strategy of the business. And it's this which enables people, I believe, subsequent to the MBA to get promoted, basically, because you understand how all the different aspects of business fit together, and you can do that efficiently within the space of a year. And then, of course, I think the third point is that we don't all necessarily have a great opportunity to learn about leading teams and leading others in our on-the-job experience, whereas the MBA provides that in a very, very focused way, and it's all about leadership and teamwork for the whole of the year. So I think those are perhaps three ways in which an MBA adds something a little bit beyond on-the-job experience.
All right, so now that you've convinced me, I can't help but ask you, under what condition can a candidate be exempted from a management test? Because there's the TAJMAS, the GMAT, there's like many management tests I need to pass if I want to apply to this MBA. And I did see that there was condition that could prevent me from having to do those tests. Which are they?
So for somebody who's worked abroad, well, obviously somebody whose native language is English, then that's you don't need to take English tests. But if you've worked abroad for more than a year, then certainly we would strongly consider waiving English tests. And we also evaluate that a little bit because there's a video interview, and we can pick up pretty quickly on the video interview whether or not the person is fluent in English. But we would certainly waive that for people who've worked extensively abroad and who have gone to school in English or have taken a degree in English. The second thing with the GMAT is we do provide exemptions if you've taken a quantitative subject at the bachelor's or a master's level. So if you're an engineer, a scientist, or somebody who's worked as a mathematician, or maybe you've been involved in a business subject which is highly quantitative, like finance, then we can waive the GMAT.
All right, I'm going to dig a little bit more in the application so that we, like the student watching, can have like a bit more tips about it. You asked for 2 professional recommendation letters. Who exactly should I ask? Should I ask the boss? Should I ask the boss of my boss? Should I ask my interns?
Well, obviously you want somebody who's going to speak well of you, so that's a good thing. I mean, obviously your boss would be a good person, because then we understand that you've worked extensively for this person, and this person is really in a good position to make some comments about you and to discuss your capabilities in a letter. So ideally, I believe it should be your boss. But some people also are lucky enough to have mentors in their life, so they're lucky enough to know senior managers who've perhaps known them for a long enough time, 4 or 5 years, and they would also be very welcome to write a reference for you.
All right. One last question about the application process. I can see it's not exactly the application process, but I can see that you have an optional French language bootcamp. How optional is it, and do I need to speak French for this MBA?
Oh, that's a good question. So, for us, it's important that you feel at ease in France, because obviously we have students from all over the world, from maybe 32 different nationalities coming from Asia, Africa, America, like Jacob, wherever. And it's important for us that we feel that you can manage well in your, for living. And basically the French boot camp, and we also have French lessons available for people before they come to the school. So, in kind of May, June, July, we offer French lessons, and then the French boot camp when people come. And that's really so that you feel at ease in the French environment. Of course, if you'd like to look for a job in France, then being able to speak French is a definite advantage. So these French lessons and the French bootcamp can form a good base for you learning enough of the language to get through the interview process for a job. But it's not obligatory, not at all. Maybe you want to come to France for your year, and then you're going to be very happy to go back to the country you come from or another country in Europe, in which case, you don't need to feel that you need to do the French bootcamp.
Well, I have to ask you, Jacob, how was your French when you applied? Did you go through that bootcamp, and how is it now?
So my French is improving. So I came in with no base, and I would say part of, along with the bootcamp, I actually came in a bit early to also go to the Lycée Français in Lyon as well. So I went up one level, but I definitely still have some work. But one thing to note is that Lyon is a great city for those that maybe, it isn't your first language, where people are willing to take the time and want to allow you the time to really practice, from going to your boulangerie to being around the school and with other French students. So there's plenty of opportunity.
All right, perfectly clear. One last question before we dig into the courses, and it's going to be for you, Rhoda. How do you make it easy for people who are 35 years old or more to go back to school?
Well, one of the things that we're doing, and I think that this is quite important, is we've been conducting some level up courses before people come to the program. So I would say, there's a certain percentage of people who come to the MBA who actually have already studied business subjects, so they're fairly well at ease in business. But that's only the minority of the people who come to our program. The majority of people who come have never studied business before. So one of the ways in which we kind of ease people back into the learning experience is these level up courses, where there's kind of self-paced learning before you come to the program. And of course, you can always ask questions and receive answers, and the professors will be helping you along the way. And this also is great because we call it level up because it means that everybody arrives with the same type of vocabulary and subjects, like strategy, marketing, finance. And it's a good way to remember what learning was like from before.
All right, well, let's talk about other way you have to transform and help your students. You had Consultancy Project, learning trips, and project-based learning. Is that how you will transform your students into early makers?
For me, yes, for sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of hands-on activity because it's more than just about gaining knowledge. I think some programs are very kind of academically focused and they focus on gaining knowledge. But for me, especially for our students, gaining knowledge is not really enough. You also have to put that knowledge into practice. And by far the best way to put that into practice is to actually work on real client problems. So we're very good at bringing in clients to the program who are alumni or friends of the school who bring in projects for different subjects, and you get to work on these different projects. And you want to be able to use the knowledge, but then afterwards you want to be able to go away and perhaps reuse that same knowledge and have the confidence to use it in other contexts as well. So not only are opportunities to learn with clients important within each of the courses, but we also have integrative courses which enable people to kind of put their knowledge together across different courses. And then we have our famous ELP 6-month consulting project as well.
Well, perhaps, Jacob, you could give us more details, like from your student's perspective or your student's experience point of view. What's been your favorite part so far, and how has it translated into learning by doing into actions concretely?
Yeah, so you actually have, there's a lot of structure to it. There's 5 different blocks where you're working with, different groups every single block. So you may be working with 5 people from 5 different regions or continents or countries. And so you have to learn not only the subjects, but how to quickly apply those subjects with a very diverse group of people. Additionally, you have the opportunity to pursue exchanges, which you also get to potentially go with other people from your cohort you may or may not have had projects with in the past. And then you also have the opportunity to pursue an entrepreneurship leadership project. And this project is from a 6 to 7 month time frame where you're working on a dynamic business problem with an actual client. And I must mention as well, it's not just this one project. I mean, we've actively been working on projects for businesses that are live, that were live active issues that our feedback is being taken into consideration for. So there's no room not to grow, I would say, and that was, at least for me, a huge reason why I picked this program in comparison to maybe other top schools.
All right, there is no room not to grow. That's very clear. Let's head to our first break and go to the clichés. The clichés are about ideas and preconceptions that you might have had before applying or once you've applied to the International MBA of Lyon Business School. I will ask you, Jacob, what's the first cliché that comes to your mind when I say International MBA and Lyon Business School?
So as dumb as it might sound, you might think that you will be drinking wine and eating bread and enjoying more than your fair share of cheese.
And frog legs.
And frog legs, foie gras, and all the rest. But really, it's a lot of work. So if you happen to sneak it in, great. But chances are, if you're working hard and you're in the midst of all these different change projects, in the midst of this diversity, you're going to have very limited time, but still enjoyable.
Well, how much work do you think it requires? Like, how much? How many hours a week will you have to spend? Or what would be the balance between the in-school work and the out-of-school work?
So we're in kind of a unique position this year because of COVID, but I imagine this is the same regardless. Is you have classes starting from 8:30 and they go till 5 o'clock. You do have some time within your lunches to maybe collaborate, but a large part of the program is going to be done outside of class, and that's direct application, as we mentioned before. So it takes a lot of skill, not just to obviously learn the material, but a huge amount of coordination. And so the state of your ability to manage those hours, say in the beginning, I'd say at least personally drastically improves as you continue to move forward and perhaps take some leadership roles within some of the groups you're in and help coordinate and work on some of the soft skills. So it's hard to pin down. It depends on where you're at and where you're at within the program and your learning curve, I would say.
Well, thank you, Jacob. Rhoda, what would be the cliche that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think the cliche for me, especially these days, is that people are talking a lot about, well, taking an MBA online. And, isn't it better to take an MBA online than to come face to face? And I would say to that the richness and of the interaction that you get when you actually step out of your day job and you come and you interact with people in person is just completely different. You're going to grow as a leader so much more if you're really involved in this learning experience, and you're able to build up the learning experience literally day by day, hour by hour with the people that you meet. And it's just going to, it's an experience which is going to completely change your life. And I think it's worth investing that year, because it'll be a great return on investment afterwards, even if it does mean stepping out of your day job for a year.
Well, I understand that going online is not compulsory. However, how does this program take into consideration the fact that we live in a digital world first?
Yeah, no, I think this is really important, because digital transformation, every industry is going through this, and it's not an option, right? It's just the way we're living our lives is going to be digital. And there are some people I think who ask the question, how is a digital education combined with face-to-face? What does this do? And the answer for that is that digital in a sense is not a single topic. It's we all know, we've heard about Industry 4.0, we've heard about blockchain, we've heard about all of these super interesting technologies. And in fact, emlyon, that's part of their USP is as early makers is all about the use of new technology. But the thing which is super important in the MBA is that all of these digital technologies have to be actually integrated into the subjects that you learn. So, if you're learning about strategy, maybe you're going to be learning about, how to use blockchain in business models. if you're learning about marketing, then our marketing faculty are going to be teaching you about artificial intelligence and machine learning and everything about how we are in contact with our digital consumers today. If you're going to learn about supply chain, then you're going to be learning about Internet of Things or other types of technology like that. So we don't kind of see digital technology as a separate subject in the MBA. It's just that it has to be in every single subject that we're learning about. And, we have to have a strong and heavy emphasis on digital transformation and how learning in each of these subjects can put together a kind of a holistic digital transformation for a company within a given industry. So for us, digital and digital technologies are absolutely key in the program.
All right, so it's not a module, it's digital in itself. It's what you mean by that. Jacob, you were talking about the pandemic and how like the course have been adapted and how what it has been adapted, and since like it was a change, and how has EMlyon adapted the courses and the student's life to the current situation?
Yeah, so that actually goes back to a point Rhoda made earlier. Especially with why move to France? Because if you move to France for physical school, when there may be the chance that you may be in a remote environment, right? And what I would say is this is something I absolutely thought through before coming here. Moving in the midst of a pandemic with my family. My wife and daughter, and then setting ourselves up to execute around this. I think you'd have to be pretty convinced with a compelling value proposition, let's say, of what emlyon offers their early makers. So I would say two things. I think first, one thing you get a chance to do. So I came out of telecommunications and SaaS or software sales background, and what you learn from that space is oftentimes you're pitching and putting people in a position so that they can pivot in remote environments, similar to what we're experiencing now. And this gave me a little bit of a perspective, having done some due diligence before coming out here and seeing how well emlyon handled the scenario with the prior cohort and their ability to not only pivot but really execute, where a lot of the students had a very high opinion of the university before graduating. So that's one. So, saying and doing are two different things. And so being able to see that they follow through on what they actually do, I think is great. And then secondly, from just an experience perspective for me, coming here, we've been fortunate enough to have some of our classes obviously face-to-face, as well as in remote settings with lockdowns and different things like that. And I think if anything, it's from a student perspective, I think it puts you in a position where you know firsthand not only how to manage all these different blocks with different projects you're working on with different sets of people from other nationalities, but also shows you how to do it in a practical way that most of the world is having to deal with and get a very well-rounded perspective on, and actually see how it's executed firsthand, not just by the school, but by from project to project and student to student. So I would say it's a plus, not a negative by any means.
All right. Well, EMlyon is not about saying; it's about doing and proving what they're actually saying. So, which is that point was very clear as well. Rhoda, you have 9 specializations in this program. Can you name them, and do they all have the same international recognition?
The specialization so our international MBA is structured into a set of core courses, and then afterwards we have a series of electives, and those electives are offered into different batches. So we have all of these different specializations. We have some functional specializations such as marketing and strategy, supply chain and operations, and we have about 5 of those. And then we also have contextual specializations, which are really focused on specific issues. So we have digitalization as a specialization, we have life science, we have lifestyle, which includes all different types of marketing, you have multinational companies and things like this. So so basically we have, I think, probably one of the widest sets of electives available, and these can be grouped by students, and students are encouraged to take up to 2 specializations. So for instance, you could say I'm going to do digitalization within multinational companies, or I'm going to do the marketing specialization within life sciences. And this, I think, provides a lot of different flexibility for people coming.
All right, Jacobs, which one are you going to pick?
Yeah, so I'm actually doubling down on my background. So I'm pursuing marketing and digitalization. In my prior role, yes, there was an element of, certainly an element of digital marketing, but most of it was field sales. And so it was a real opportunity for me to layer in a little bit more to my background and my further future goals.
I guess the idea behind the specialization is just to boost your career and to make sure that you can actually become a specialist and you could add values to your profile. Rhoda, are 12 months enough to significantly boost my career?
I believe it is, but at the same time, I think we have to be aware that there aren't miracles, right? So we often say to people, and this is really important, because it's important that the people that we bring into the program and the people we recruit to the program, it's important that they already have an idea of where they'd like to go in their career. It doesn't have to be extremely precise, but they need to understand their direction. So I think Jacob talking about marketing and digitalization, that's already great, right? That's going to be building on some skills that he already has and also taking his CV a little bit further. I think the one thing we would counsel against is a complete change of function and business sector is really unlikely. So it's important that people are realistic, and and we interview very extensively for that when we bring people into the program. There has to be at least one thing which is going to be kept current. So if you're already in marketing, perhaps change sector. If you're if you're thinking about changing function, then maybe you should be thinking about changing function within the same sector. That I think kind of links very well to our career. Careers is an extremely strong part of our program, and everybody receives a lot of individual support for those kind of career decisions, and it's important that people have feedback as well, as they work on that.
All right, perfectly clear. And what would a student normally do? I mean, do you have maybe statistics? Are they more like going into consulting, into marketing, into sales, into general management? What would normally a student do afterwards?
Yeah, this is an interesting question for us, because it's something that we've been looking at when we've been considering how to redesign the program and how to, we're constantly on a quest of improving the quality of the program. So we took the statistics from the last 3 to 5 years, and there are probably about 7 or 8 jobs which are very common amongst our MBA graduates. I would say jobs like business development, consultancy, project management, product management, marketing manager, supply chain and operations. These types of jobs are very, very common, and of course entrepreneurs as well.
All right, Jacob, you mentioned you had a wife, you have children as well, and so, well, I can't help but wondering, what is the work-life balance like for students on these courses?
Well, first off, I have to say it's just a child. Maybe there's more, but I'm fairly certain I just have one child.
You said a daughter, but I just, you don't want to make any mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, so just one. No. So work-life balance is, I'm not going to make any two bits about it. It can be challenging. And I think not just because of the, all the different classes and all the different things you're managing, but, you're in a different country, so you need to be prepared for that and do your due diligence in terms of being prepared. And, I'm fortunate to have a wife that's very amiable and supportive. So if anything, I would say she's been an enabler, quite frankly. Yeah. So she's been super helpful, but it's very, very doable. I wouldn't let it scare anybody off. You just need to be fully prepared and make sure you're on the same page.
Yeah, and since she's watching you doing that video, obviously you're not going to say anything else. Obviously, I'm kidding. So one last thing, Jacob. if you had to convince a student to come to your school, what would you say?
That's a good question. So this kind of goes back to the doing point, I would say. So I actually was briefly pursuing an MBA at another top 100 school, we'll say. And one of the things that was great was you're going to get the quantitative work that you expect out of an MBA. In the former experience that I had, it was quantitative, but application was sorely lacking. So I think you don't want to, for me, two things, you could pursue, especially coming from the United States, you could pursue an MBA or a master's program over the course of 2 years, and you're losing a year, and I would say the experience of having a truly diverse set of individuals, not just from a background and from a professional perspective or from other countries, but you're getting the whole range of what that means in terms of how rich your experience could potentially be. So I would say, save yourself a year and really get all of the value out of an MBA in half the time. And then secondly, if you're going to absolutely pursue this, it needs to be applicable. And if you're not pursuing or looking at it from that perspective, I think it's just as important, obviously with the quantitative homework is, really being able to apply that in a soft skill setting, where you're having to manage a lot of volatility and truly be agile and effective. If that's what your goal is, I cannot think of anywhere else I'd rather be.
Perfectly clear. Thank you, Jacob. Well, it's time for extra time, so let's head there. Extra time is basically 2 minutes. I'm going to give 1 minute to each of you to tell us everything that hasn't been said or something that you want to emphasize on. Jacob, I will let you start, and Rhoda, I will let you close the show.
Yeah, so I would say this. I think, building off the last point, I think obviously all the quantitative stuff is super, super important. You want to bring new skills in a larger perspective, to the business, to the people that you may be leading in the future, or the role you may be leading in as an individual contributor. But I think just as important, if not more, is really understanding how to navigate a situation in a complex environment with ease. And I think it's really difficult to maybe realize that on the onset if you're looking at different MBA programs and how you might gain in terms of postgraduate. I think that's perhaps even potentially the wrong question. I think the wrong question is how far can I stretch and grow, especially when it comes to soft skills perspective, and how can I lead and influence, especially diverse groups of people, and potentially in an international setting. I can't think of. I've said this before, but I really cannot think of a better place to do this. And of all the places that I could have looked at, say in the United States or abroad, this is easily my top choice, I would say.
All right, sky's the limit for emlyon International MBA. Rhoda, what a conclusion from Jacob. It's your turn now to close. After you opened the show, now it's your turn to close it.
Great, thanks. I think there's perhaps one thing that we haven't really touched on quite so much, because we were quite serious and talked an awful lot about the curriculum and all of these great things, which I think Jacob's done a great job emphasizing on the learning opportunity. But I think one of the things which I really want to stress about emlyon is we're very human, we're very friendly. We are building an amazing experience for each and every participant that comes, from whichever country in the world. And one of the things that's important for that is that we have a great team around us at emlyon. And each of the people that works for me and works in the different departments, they all care. They all care an awful lot about the experience that people are going to get, and they want people to feel at ease. They want people to feel welcome to our school and welcome to France. And this is super important, and we have some great professors who are equally caring and take a great interest in each of the individual students, and will do their very best to help you and their very best to make this a truly unforgettable experience at emlyon.
All right, so it will boost your humanity as much as your career, I guess, in a way. Well, thank you, Rhoda, for answering all the questions, and thank you, Jacob, as well. It was a pleasure for me to lead that interview. If you want to become the global leader you want to be, the International MBA from emlyon is where you have to go. And for the people watching, I hope to see you soon on Campus Channel.